What is up, everyone, and happy hump day, aka Wednesday, to you all. No, Josh, you didn't miss anything. Why? Because at 2 p.m. is the rate announcement. At 2:30 p.m., Jerome Powell goes on the mic to piss in our Cheerios. What are we expecting today? Well, you know what we're expecting today. We're expecting a pause. And you're like, bro, how do you know that? Well, because we've been talking about it for quite some time. There's a 99.9% chance that Jerome Powell's gonna pause. So no, we're not gonna miss anything because we've been expecting this the entire time. ¿Qué onda, muchachos and muchachas? How are y'all doing today? I hope you're doing well. Let me just take a quick swiggeroni of water. Agua for you gringos and gringas out there. In fact, for today's stream, we're going to ditch the Gucci's and we're going to go with the Oakleys. Why? Because these are a little bit stronger prescription-wise. I need a little bit more help because I've got my other monitor right here, and I've got the one here, and I've got the one here. I need a little bit more help to see this stuff. We got East Afro King in the house saying, Ola Klaus. Ander Leave says, poop sandwich for me, please, extra runny. Well, I hope you've got some tough rye bread to soak up that liquidness. Ooh, this is much better with the stronger prescription. Oh, yes, yes. Hello, Klaus from El Salvador. Well, hello. In about a month, I'm going to be going back to the great country of Guate. That's Guatemala for you gringos out there. Ay, caramba is right. Ola to you as well. What's going on, everyone? South Africa in the house. Don't forget the Dutch guys as well. Jan Willem is in the house. Yes, he's definitely pausing. McNichol is saying, yo, I've got a meeting at 2 p.m. that'll take me away for a while. Don't worry, McNichol, because as soon as this live stream is done, it's going to get dumped into the live stream folder so you can watch it later. McNichol says, Klaus, I have to get bifocals so I feel your pain. Don't worry. These are progressives, so I've got all ranges. Yeah, baby, I gotcha. Candy Amaro, a feminita in the house, is hello from Tejas. Well, hello to the 7% of you out there that are statistically female in the house. Pennsylvania, yo, Tyler, what's up? Hello from Northern Ontario, Canada. I bet you're still shivering in your timbers up there cold as well. Powell is a master at pissing in the cheers. Here's what we're going to expect from Powell today, okay? We're going to expect him to say, yo, I'm not cutting rates until inflation seems stable. I'm not cutting rates until the tariff stuff chills the F out. I'm not cutting rates until the Middle East calms down. I'm not cutting rates until, Jerome, we know you're not cutting rates. In fact, the odds for our first rate cut are going to be happening closer to the September meeting, where we've got about a 63% chance of getting some rate cuts. Ola from Phoenix, Florida, Missouri, Louisiana. Oh, Chattanooga, Tennessee in the house. I love Chattanooga. I've been there before. It's a pretty cool place. Andrew Butcher's hanging out in Southern Ontario. Florida is in the house. Love me some Florida as well. What's going on, everyone? Pittsburgh, PA as well. Oh, Trick, you're not from Ontario. We know where you're from. You're from Ireland, my guy. Wow. So, everyone, expectations today are pretty simple. Powell's going to pause. What we don't want, okay, this is what we don't want. What we don't want is this, okay? What we don't want Powell to say is one rate cut this year. We're still expecting two, okay? That's what the market is pricing in right now. We're still pricing in 2 cuts this year. What we don't want is for him to say, oh, geopolitical tensions, blah, 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 blah. No, we don't want him to say, if he says there's only going to be 1 rate cut this year, the market will tank red. If he says, hey, we're still on pace for 2 this year, then we're going to stay good where we're at. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in the house. I'm up in the upstate of South Carolina. I'm in Netherlands. That's where Glenn's hanging out. Yo, Cali in the house. Right here, the West Coast is the best coast. Well done, smoking them trees, my guy. Cerveza time from the Boogie Town. Hector's hanging out with us. Hello. By the way, are y'all paying attention to Circle? Yo, whoever wrote the Circle IPO screwed over Circle Internet Group. The original price expectation was $24 to $26. And now that thing is at $177. Yo, they really screwed people. They could have got Circle Internet Group way more money on that initial offering. That thing now is almost like 6x on that action. Chicago is in the house. Hold up for all my Chicago fans, because El Pope is a Sox fan, and so is Klaus. And the Sox got roasted last night by Los Cardenales, which sucks, but such is life. Sore Loser says, hey, from Antigua, Guatemala. I'm going to be in Guatemala in a month. I'm treating my mom to a vacation in Guatemala. My mom's getting a little bit older, and my mom wanted to have some fun. So I said, Mom, let's go to Guatemala. It's a beautiful country. The people there are super freaking awesome. So let's go. I'm taking my mom to Guatemala. I'll be there in a freaking month. I'll still be broadcasting. Why? Because I bring you the news even while I'm on vacation. Why? Because I love you all. Yeah, buddy. There you go. Cubs fan for Josh Fisher. That's okay. The Pope is not a Cubs fan. The Cubs don't need the Pope's help, okay? The Sox do need help. I know. The Sox suck, okay? I know. Trust me. I've been a Sox fan my whole life. My whole life. My wife and I go out in the public. We rock our Sox gear all the time, and people are like, yo, you're obviously not bandwagon fans. Finland is in the house. Hello from Alaska. We don't get too many fans from Alaska, but just saying out there, Alaska is a cool place to be. I'm not doing Antigua. I'm going to stay in Guatemala City because I love the big city vibes, and I don't want to do the tourist stuff. I want to be in the big city vibes. Jerome Powell's announcement from the Fed is going to be in 3 minutes. When that happens, I'm going to share with you some information. Now, the meeting today is a smidge different. Okay, you see the little asterisks up on the screen right here? This is going to have economic projections. That's important. The reason this is important is because they're going to project what their expectations are for the rest of the year. The only freaking thing we're hoping for today is Jerome and the rest of his friends at the Fed are not expecting 1 rate cut this year. We want them to keep on pace with 2 cuts this year. If they keep on pace with 2 cuts this year, then we're going to be good. Okay? That's the whole thing. Then we're going to be good. If he mentions anything about adjusting the expectations to 1 rate cut, not good. Deep poop sandwich. Deep poop sandwich. That is not what we want. Hello from Louisiana and hello from India. Nice. Love it. We got peeps watching from all over the place. And also, please make sure that you hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. Helps the algorithm push this stuff out. Don't be a louse. Sub to Klaus. And I've been talking about it with my wife. Maybe a little bit of Klaus for House 2026. Maybe I run for Congress. Just throwing it out there. Lucas Sefan says 1 rate cut is better than no cuts, right? Wrong. The market is still expecting 2 this year. So if we were to change our expectations from 2 to 1, that would be extremely bearish. That would be bad. We don't want our expectations to go even more bearish than where we're at right now. Greetings from Brazil. Well, hello, everyone. Wow. Don't be a dyke, hit the like. I love it. We got people from all over the place watching. Iron Turtle dropping some support in the house. Iron Turtle, thank you very much. Everyone give Iron Turtle a big thank you for helping out the channel. Says like and subscribe. Klaus is the king of crypto news. Yeah, seriously, I've been honestly contemplating running for House in 2026. I've really been thinking about it. Obviously, my chances are super small. I'm a little bit of a controversial person, but I don't BS people. I shoot it the way it is. I'd like to say that I'm a moderate. I'm really for the people, as you obviously all know that. I do things for the people. I thought about Senate bid going after Lindsey Graham, but the problem is he's heavily financed, and there is no way the Republicans would let him lose. Just throwing it out there. So I talked to my wife about it, and I was like, yo, I seriously might think about running for House in 2026. I'm honestly thinking about it. All right, we just got the word from the Fed. Here you go. Are you ready? The committee seeks to achieve maximum employment. In order to support its goals, the committee decided to maintain. So guess what? They paused, everyone. I'm going to write that down in the chat. The Fed paused rates yet again. I'm going to put that in. I am going to pin that. Hold on. I'm going to pin this message up at the top. So there you go. The Fed left rates unchanged. You got it. There you go. Fed's rates unchanged. Boom. There you go. Tiger Man dropping support on the channel, says, don't be a louse, vote for Klaus. Yeah, seriously, everyone, I'm honestly thinking about it. I've had a bunch of talks with my wife about it, thinking of running in 2026. I have gotten very unhappy with how things have been done politically in this country, and I really think it's time to change, and I think it's time to change for the people. I think people want something different. I think we want leadership that's a bit more faster acting. I think we need people to speak about the issues that are real. Okay, here's one. Okay, so I did a story earlier today about the Genius Act, right? So the Genius Act got out of the Senate, so now it goes to the House, right? So now that it goes to the House, you do realize that this could take 4 to 6 months before the House needs to even do anything with it. Do you realize how long this could take for stuff to be done? That's why we have problems in this country, is because stuff just takes way too long to get done. So we need things to change. We need to shake up the status quo. And you don't shake up the status quo by repeating the same BS over and over and over. We really need change, and we need the change where people tell it how it is. And you know what we really need? We need leadership out there that reflects what the people think. I don't want war. I don't want BS. I don't want any of that crap. What I want is I want people's feelings. I want people's ideas to be represented, and I want them to be representative effectively and quickly. And so yeah, I've really been doing it. Will I still be making videos? Of course. Videos is where I'm at. I'm for the people. Why do you think I brought you videos while I was on vacation? I literally was on vacation for a month. Y'all got videos every day, except for the days I was on a plane flying. I've been super sick here as of late. Oh, so sick that guess what? I got now even another prescription. That's right. I'm taking now prednisone to help out. I've got now another prescription that I'm going to be taking shortly after. Even though I'm super sick, I'm still bringing you videos. Why? Because you, the viewer, matter most. So if ever I was going to go and run for House, guess what I would do? I would still make you the person that matters most. So I'm seriously thinking about it. Seriously thinking about it. I would run for House out of South Carolina, and I would pick a Democrat to go after because it'd be easier for me to get funding in the Republican Party in South Carolina, because South Carolina is mostly Republican voters, so it'd be easier for me to do that. And I would be a moderate. I would be cool with pew-pews. I would be cool with doing tasty bong rips. I would be cool with helping out with tourism. I would be cool with helping out that we get stuff done fast. I would want change. I would want a faster system, and it would be huge. It would be huge. And so for me, okay, here's the thing, right? For how many years have we all wanted crypto regs, right? We've wanted crypto regs for years. Gary Gensler and the SEC has been wrecking crypto. The SEC right now sucks, right? The SEC delayed the HBAR ETF. Why? For another comment period. What do you need comments on? You're going to approve it eventually. This is more just government bureaucratic bullshit. We don't need that. What we need you to do is to get stuff done in a timely manner. Tiger Man dropping support on the channel says, you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not tell, I'm telling you why. Crypto Cause is coming to town. See you in Antigua. Yeah, I think, okay, so I'm going also to Guatemala in October as well. I'm going to take my wife and my daughter back out there. I think we might go to Antigua then too. That'd be really cool. Mustafa's in the house. Says, hello, Klaus. Hello back to you. Hello. Jerome is a bee pirate. Very true. Jerome's peeing in our Cheerios. So think about it. We have Paul Atkins now, who's the new head of the SEC, right? He's still delaying every darn ETF. He's delaying the XRP ETFs. He's delaying the HBAR ETFs. We have the same problem. So it doesn't matter, you know what I mean, what's going on here. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's the change we need. We need more people in leadership that is saying, yo, the system is broken. People's viewpoints are not being represented by their politicians, and we're screwed. Yeah, the dots. I got to look at the dots. I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. KB. Because this meeting is a little different because we have projection materials, okay? So these projection materials show what the Fed's rates expectations are going to be. Their expectations regarding inflation, unemployment, what their rate cuts are going to be. That's the big one right there. That's the big one. Torres is another one. Why is she... What other court case can you think of where both sides have come to an agreement, and yet the judge is like, no, I know you both are agreeing, but let's just keep delaying this even more. That just costs people more money because time is money. The lawyers make it, but the people get screwed. I mean, the majority of people in the United States, okay? The majority of people in the United States want cannabis legalized. The majority. What do politicians do? They don't do shit about it. I lived in South Dakota a few years ago, like 5-6 years ago, I lived in South Dakota, okay? The public in South Dakota voted to legalize it. The public, the people voted to legalize it, and you know what the governor did? The governor blocked it. No, you are a governor to represent the people. So if your people say, this is what we want, and you go, F you don't get it, there is something wrong. So the government is supposed to be representative of the people, and we've lost that. We've lost that. And that's a big problem. Is leadership is not representing the people. When I worked in corporate, the reason I was so successful in corporate, the reason I got to retire at age 37 is because I ran every facility I was at, not because I was the boss, but because the employees were in charge. All I did was ask the employees, what is wrong? How should we fix it? If you need help from me, just ask me for help. I will help you with approvals. I will help. And I did. Every meeting we did, the employees were in charge. If there was ever a problem, I would ask the employees, hey, what do you guys think is going wrong? They were the ones that worked the line. They were the ones that saw the problems firsthand. And I would ask the employees, what is wrong? How can we fix it? And they would give me ideas. And then I would say, okay, cool. If we're going to make some changes, can you please tell me if this is working or if this isn't? Every time we had meetings, the employees ran the meetings. Every time there was a change in a process, the employees would be the ones in charge of the process. And all they would do is then report the numbers to me and say, hey, Klaus, this is working, this isn't. And then they would be like, Klaus, there's some problems here. Can you help us with this? We don't understand this. And I'd be like, sure. And then I would step in and I would help them with stuff. I would ask them for their input and we would move from there. This is what we need more of. The public, right? The American public, the people know what's wrong. We have been suffering from inflation. We have been suffering from high prices in food, gas, housing, and all that stuff. The people in DC don't feel inflation. The elected officials don't know what it's like to spend a ton on food because they make so much darn money. My wife goes grocery shopping all the time. Love my wife. Greatest lady in the freaking world, okay? My wife is like, Klaus, I've spent X, Y, and Z on groceries. And I'm like, yo, that's a lot of money. My wife gets affected by inflation. I get infected by inflation. But do you think these politicians like Pelosi that have 30, 40 million in their banks are affected by the price of eggs going to $6 a dozen? No. They have so much disposable money that they're just immune to it. You think Jerome Powell gives a shit about rate cuts? Oh, what does he care if home loan rates are at 6%, 6.5%? He pays for his stuff in cash. And that's a big problem. And you know what? Even if I were to get elected, I probably wouldn't get a second term. They'd probably kick me the F out because I'd probably ruffle too many feathers. But you know what? I would try. I would sure as hell try. It's just, it bothers me so much because the original way that this country was run was by the people and for the people. And that's how I run my channel. I run my channel for by the people and for the people. That's why I don't bring you hopium. Because that's not what you want. What you want is news, good, bad, happy, or sad. Stephen Baird says, 47,000 subscribers. Presently, you're living proof that honesty can pay. More power to you in your current form. Don't lose that. Don't be a politician. I'll never be a politician. I will never be a politician. But the problem is crypto became political, right? You had one side of the aisle that got against it, one side that became before it. 3 years ago, crypto was not political. Both sides of the aisle were pretty neutral in regards to crypto. They really were. It was very interesting. And then all of a sudden we saw when the FTX thing happened, there just came this really, really funky divide where like crypto became like a weapon. It was funky, man. It was a wild, wild thing to see. Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there. But it's frustrating because you know what? Here we are. All right? Here we are. We're in June. We're June 18th. And you know what? You know what we got? We still don't have regs. We don't have stablecoin regs. We don't have regs for the rest of the crypto market. We don't have a strategic reserve. We were told we were going to get an XRP ADA Sol strategic reserve. We don't have that. So again, more overpromising and under-delivering. We have an SEC that's supposedly pro-crypto, yet they delay every decision in regards to crypto. This is a mess. Tonga M says, this guy is so off topic, I'm going to a different stream. What do you want to know? The Fed paused rates. We've got 17 minutes till Jerome Powell goes on. Do you want me to keep saying the Fed paused, the Fed paused, the Fed paused? Maybe you can't handle the topic at hand, which is the problem we have right now, is that nothing is getting done. We've been told we were going to get stuff done, and we haven't gotten it. This is the big issue. The big issue is we're in mid-June, and nothing has happened in crypto that we were promised to get. Remember, we were promised in the first 30 days, the first 60 days, the first 90 days. Remember all those promises? We haven't gotten any of them, have we? Eric Troop says, every day is just more smoke and mirrors, Klaus. Who is winning? The exchanges are winning. The politicians are winning on their insider trading. That is BS. Stephen Baird says, I'm glad to be a subscriber. I have been for a while now, and I think it's value for the money. That's right. And when I set up my subscription tiers for this channel, you know what I set them at? I set them at the two cheapest options possible. 99 cents and $1.99. Why? Because I don't want to screw people over. I tried to make it as cheap as I could. Did the Fed pause? Yes. It's up at the top. I can't tell it like every 5 seconds. You know what I'm saying? This is just frustrating. It's frustrating because I honestly thought that by June, we would have stablecoin regs. At the minimum, I thought stablecoin regs would be a slam dunk because when we had the hearings, because remember that we broadcasted the hearings live? Remember the big crypto meeting? They said they had enough support on both sides of the aisle to get this thing through by March. And then all of a sudden, we got screwed. Like, we got screwed, man. So now it's like, what? I mean, we're seriously, we might, like, okay, here's what's happening in the House, okay? Let's zoom out. Let's just zoom out just a little bit. In the House right now, they're talking about the Clarity Act, okay? That's regs for this big blob of crypto up on the screen, okay? Everything outside of BTC and stables, okay? The Clarity Act is like having troubles in the House right now. So if the cryptos like XRP, ADA, TRX, BNB, like if all that stuff is having problems, you know what I'm saying? How is that going to work in the Senate? The Senate had problems with stable coins. That means the Senate's going to have even bigger problems regulating the altcoins of the market. This is a big, 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 big problem. So we might be looking at August for stablecoin bill, if we're lucky. And then you might be looking at the rest of crypto, maybe not even getting regs until October, November? Dude, that's messed up. That's really, really, really messed up. I'm... It's tough. Okay, so we talk a lot about people wanting to get XRP as strategic reserves, XRP as corporate treasuries, like all this kind of stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? As a company, though, you don't want to buy XRP as a strategic reserve because right now all you have are executive orders from the Trump administration. That's all you have protecting crypto right now. You don't have any regs. Torres, whatever anyone thinks, get off of Torres's titties. There are judges out there that don't recognize what Torres said. There are courts out there that don't recognize what Torres said. You do not have any clarity for XRP. There are courts in California that consider XRP a security. There are other courts out there that don't recognize it. You need regs, okay? So what's happening is these companies out there aren't getting into XRP like they can get into BTC because there's no protection yet. That's why we need the Clarity Act to go through to open up the wallets of these companies to make them feel comfortable. Because the big problem you got now is if the next president that comes in hates crypto, then they can do what? They can then create a whole bunch of executive orders that are anti-crypto, which then would screw people over that added that stuff. This is a big, 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 big problem. A big, 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 big problem. I think what all of us have to do here is we have to get involved and we have to be vocal, right? We do. We have to be vocal. You know what I mean? Rob says government for the people ended in the Kennedy administration. Since then, it's been 100% about keeping politicians politics and keeping corporate America solvent. I agree. Being a politician has been about being greedy. If I were to become a politician, I would most likely donate a majority of my money to a charity. I would find a cool charity that actually uses the money effectively, and I would donate the majority of it. I'm not about money. That's why I didn't make my subscription super high. That's why I try my best to do things that are low key. I don't sell things. I don't sell trading classes. None of that stupid shit. I would donate the majority of my salary to a charity that I know goes to a really cool cause. Because I don't believe in greed. Money for me is not the most important thing. Time for me is. And I've said that time and time again. Time is the most important thing for me. Stephen Baird says, you're one of the good guys. Stay that way. These politicians will eat you for lunch and destroy your soul. No, my soul is not for sale. Like I said, if it were to ever happen, I would make it one term and then they'd probably kick me out for something. Which, you know what? It'd probably be the best one term ever. The link for subscribing, I don't see it because I'm in my module right here. I don't see it. If someone could help the link for subscribing, please let me know. I think it's in the bottom of the chat, but I think you might have to do it through a PC. I don't know if you can do it through the cell phone. You might have to do it through the PC. Alan McMaster's hanging out. Says, yo, Brother Klaus, just now leaving the gym. I'll be on and off the stream showing love. Well, thank you, Alan. I appreciate it. Alan, hardcore, man, in the comments. Love it. Ooh, York County, South Carolina in the house. Love it. Robert Melvin, Reverend Funky hanging out. Says this guy's the real deal. He ain't no scrub. A scrub is the kind of guy you think you like. Ain't no kind of a hustler. Yeah, there you go, baby. 10 minutes, Jerome Powell from the Fed comes on. This one, he's going to have a lot of visuals. We're going to talk about projections. We're going to talk about inflation projections. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff like that. Housing is going to be a big problem, too. In case y'all haven't looked, housing is a big problem. We don't have a lot of affordable housing. Who does that screw over? Yeah, that's a big problem. Yeah, it screws over the everyday person. Unemployment, that's the other big problem we got. Unemployment looks pretty stable. That's why Jerome thinks the economy can handle high rates for longer. As long as the jobs market seems solid, Jerome feels like we can tolerate the higher rates. That's a big, big problem. Manny says, yeah, I tried. You have to do it on a computer. You can't do it on the phone. On the phone. There you go. There you go. So right now, crypto market, like I said, we've priced this in. We knew we were going to pause. Not a big deal. Let's real quick. We got a couple minutes. We got about 9 minutes till the Fed comes on. Right now, check this out. Right now, we're at 85.5% right now. Chance that he's going to pause for the July meeting, okay? The July meeting. So think about it. We're really probably not going to get a cut until the September meeting. So for rates, I mean, yeah, they're going to be high. The European Central Bank is going to keep cutting. Canada is going to keep cutting. Other zones are going to keep cutting. The United States is going to be behind. Oh, Ken Bleichner says, on a non-crypto note, your soon-to-be world champion Minnesota Twins are going to rock the Sox off the South Side this year. Who is not beating the White Sox this year? Everyone's beating the Sox this year. The only people not beating the Sox this year are the Colorado Rockies. That is the only thing keeping the White Sox from getting destroyed. Scott Forey says, my guy, thanks for the Circle updates. You appreciate it. I was glad to bring everyone the Circle IPO. If that was one thing I was very, 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 very proud of, it was that I brought you the Circle news. A lot of people are like, oh, bro, why would you talk Circle stablecoin news? Stablecoins are boring. Well, for those haters out there, you could go F yourself because that was a 6x on that news story that I brought you. 6 freaking X. So you could say stablecoins are boring all you want, girlfriend. But here is the chart over the last 2 weeks. You wish your crypto went from $31 to $182. Damn. Yeah, for everyone telling me that stablecoins are boring. I have been saying for like the last year that stablecoins are where it's at in crypto. And people were ripping on me. Bro, you're stupid. Bro, you ride the little yellow school bus. Stables are dumb. And I'm like, no. Stables are juicy. And people didn't want to believe me. Trick dropping support on the house. Thank you, Trick, from across the pond in Ireland. Thank you, my Irish friend. Robert Melvin says, and everyone, give Trick a big thank you. It's customary in this channel. Like I said, this is all about the viewer. It's customary in this channel that whenever someone drops support in this channel, you thank that person. That's how we do it, right? This is all about the viewer, right? So thank that person. Robert Melvin said, Trump put Jerome in last time he was in office and was anti-crypto. Yeah. They were closer though. When Trump appointed JP the last time, they were a lot closer. Since then, Trump's aggressive though. You got to think about that. Trump is he shakes things up. Jerome Powell's not that way. Jerome Powell's a very slow moving person. Very, very slow moving. Alan McMaster said, bro, you called that shit. You knew it would blow up. Your words are gold. I appreciate it. You could tell stables were big. And the way you could tell stables were big, there was the volume, the market cap, and the players getting into it. You could see it, man. You could see it. You could follow the money with stable coins, dude. You could, dudes and dudettes, for the 7% of you that are dudettes out there. Yeah. Trick is the Irish counterpart of Klaus hanging out there. For real, everyone, we've got economic projections coming out today. So you're going to see some more visuals from Jerome Powell. The big thing, right? The big thing that we got to look, though, and listen for is we just got to make sure that Jerome Powell just doesn't say one rate cut this year. That's the only thing we just got to hope he doesn't say. That is the only big thing. The other IPO that's coming out is the Gemini IPO. I don't see that being as hot as Circles. I think it can be juicy, but the problem is a lot of people don't like the Winklevoss twins. Exchanges are making a lot of money. Let's be real here. They make a lot of money on the volume, but then again, you got to be realistic here. Exchanges do good when the volume is high, right? Stable coins, the volume has just been high, period. People love stable coins. Educated Bum says there are no rate cuts. No, the decision has already been made. There are no rate cuts. Brian Johnson says, are you stacking stable coins and why? The reason players stack stable coins is because of the juicy yield behind it. They can park their money in stables, earn 10 to 15%, not have to deal with the market volatility. They can move that money in from one thing to the next within seconds, earn yield on that, and then if a juicy opportunity is there, they can strike instantly. Stables are a way for people to make payments. They're a way for people to store value, and they're a way for people to be flexible. That's what players want right now, and the yield. The yield is really big in stables right now. So if you're a big company, okay, this is how stables are juicy. Let's say you're a big company and you got $100 million in the bank. You don't want to put your money in like CDs or bonds because the yield sucks. The yield is garbage. So what do? You put your money into stables where you're earning like 5, 8, 10 times the yield. Yeah, it's a little bit risky, but it's pegged to the US dollar. And a lot of players out there still believe in the US dollar. So because of that, they're able to earn so much more interest and still have the flexibility to get out at a moment's notice. The thing is, too, is you're also able to get a whole bunch of people out there that back these things, that do the attestation reports, and they're good with it. Krishna dropping 10 channel memberships to people. That's freaking awesome. Big thank you to Krishna for dropping 10 channel memberships so the next 10 people got them. That is freaking cool. Thank you, Krishna. I appreciate that, and I bet you the next 10 people appreciated that as well. This is really neat. The coolest thing about the channel memberships, I try to do channel member videos. That's like the coolest thing out there. Like I said, I'll be full disclosure. I have been fairly sick over the last couple months. It has not been fun. I've been fairly sick, so it's a little hard for me to talk for extended periods of time. It's not been fun at all. I will try my best to keep doing them, but I keep bringing you the videos, which is important. Hopefully the medication that I'm on now and this one right here, which I'm going to be taking as soon as that one's done, hopefully that helps me out. I will be more active with that. So seriously, thank you, Krishna, for the support. Bajo Anats, hopefully I'm saying that right, says, making sure you don't forget the hombre. Thank you very much. Everyone give Bajo a big thank you. Give Krishna a big thank you as well. 2 minutes, Jerome Powell comes on the mic. Remember, economic projections in this meeting. We know he's going to talk about Israel and Iran, right? He's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about short-term inflation flare-ups. He's going to talk about economic projections. He's going to talk about the housing market. He's also going to talk about the job market being strong enough to be able to withstand higher rates for longer, okay? The only danger zone we're looking for right now, the only danger zone is him saying expectations of one rate cut versus two. If he mentions anything about one rate cut versus two, the market will tank. If he still says, hey, we're on pace for 2 cuts this year, we're good. We're good. We're awesome with that. All right? Infinite Oceans International says, it's unreal how slow and long this process is taking for personal manipulation so players can shuffle around behind the scenes. It's true. It is very true. Krishna says, great channels, need more support, no BS, no hopium, just 100% facts. Alan McMaster says, still keeping you in my prayers, brother. I thank you. I appreciate that, Alan. This has not been fun, man. I had surgery May 2nd. I did good the first couple weeks after surgery, like the first week and a half, and then I crashed. It got really bad. I felt really good, and then I went south bad. Like bad, bad, bad. Ever since then, it has been antibiotic, antibiotic, antibiotic. I do good, and then as soon as the antibiotic wears off, I crash horribly. Like, horribly. Oh, Jerome is live. Let me bring it to you.
Objective. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. We believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond to economic developments. I'll have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Following growth of 2.5% last year, GDP was reported to have edged down in the first quarter, reflecting swings in net exports that were driven by businesses bringing in imports ahead of potential tariffs. This unusual swing has complicated GDP measurement. Private domestic final purchases, or PDFP as we call them, which excludes net exports, inventory investment, and government spending, grew at a solid 2.5% rate. Within PDFP, growth of consumer spending moderated, while investment in equipment and intangibles rebounded from weakness in the fourth quarter. Surveys of households and businesses, however, report a decline in sentiment over recent months and elevated uncertainty about the economic outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns. It remains to be seen how these developments might affect future spending and investment. In our summary of economic projections, the median participant projects GDP to rise 1.4% this year and 1.6% next year, somewhat slower than projected in March. In the labor market, conditions have remained solid. Payroll job gains averaged 135,000 per month over the past 3 months. The unemployment rate, at 4.2%, remains low and has stayed in a narrow range for the past year. Wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market are broadly in balance and consistent with maximum employment. The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. The median projection for the unemployment rate in the SEP is 4.5% at the end of this year and next, a bit higher than projected in March. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer run goal. Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total PCE prices rose 2.3% over the 12 months ending in May, and that, excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.6%. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have moved up over recent months, as reflected in both market and survey-based measures. Respondents to surveys of consumers, businesses, and professional forecasters point to tariffs as the driving factor. Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation this year is 3%, somewhat higher than projected in March. The median inflation projection falls to 2.4% in 2026 and 2.1% in 2027. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5% and to continue reducing the size of our balance sheet. We will continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. Changes to trade, immigration, fiscal, and regulatory policies continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. The effects of tariffs will depend, among other things, on their ultimate level. Expectations of that level, and thus of the related economic effects, reached a peak in April and have since declined. Even so, increases in tariffs this year are likely to push up prices and weigh on economic activity. The effects on inflation could be short-lived, reflecting a one-time shift in the price level. It's also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome will depend on the size of the tariff effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully into prices, and ultimately on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to prevent a one-time increase in the price level from becoming an ongoing inflation problem. As we act to meet that obligation, we will balance our maximum employment and price stability mandates, keeping in mind that without price stability, we cannot achieve the long periods of strong labor market conditions that benefit all Americans. We may find ourselves in the challenging scenario in which our dual mandate goals are in tension. If that were to occur, we would consider how far the economy is from each goal and the potentially different time horizons over which those respective gaps would be anticipated to close. For the time being, we are well positioned to wait to learn more about the likely course of the economy before considering any adjustments to our policy stance. In our SEP, FOMC participants wrote down their individual assessments of an appropriate path for the federal funds rate based on what each participant judges to be the most likely scenario going forward. The median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 3.9% at the end of this year, the same as projected in March. The median projection declines to 3.6% at the end of next year and to 3.4% at the end of 2027, a little higher than the March projection. These individual forecasts are always subject to uncertainty, and as I've noted, uncertainty is unusually elevated. And of course, these projections are not a committee plan or decision. At this meeting, the committee continued its discussions as part of our 5-year review of our monetary policy framework. We focused on issues related to assessing the risks and uncertainties that are relevant for monetary policy and the potential implications for policy strategy and communications. Our review includes outreach and public events involving a wide range of parties, including Fed Listens events around the country and a research conference that we held last month. We are open to new ideas and critical feedback, and we will take on board lessons of the last 5 years in determining our findings. We intend to wrap up any modifications to our statement on longer-run goals and monetary policy strategy by late summer. After that, we will consider enhancements to our suite of communications tools, including the SEP. The Fed has been assigned 2 goals for monetary policy: maximum employment and stable prices. We remain committed to supporting maximum employment, bringing inflation sustainably to our 2% goal, and keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our success in delivering on these goals matters to all Americans. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission, and we at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Colby. Thank you. Colby Smith with the New York Times. To what extent has the more limited impact from tariffs at this stage on inflation changed your view on what the ultimate economic fallout will be from these policies and the timing of when they will materialize in the data?
So we've had 3 months of favorable inflation readings since the high readings of January and February, and that's, of course, highly welcome news. Part of that just is that services, core services, both housing services and non-housing services, have really been grinding down toward levels that are consistent with 2% inflation. So that's the good news. We've had goods inflation just moving up a bit, and of course we expect, as you point out, we do expect to see more of that over the course of the summer. It takes some time for tariffs to work their way through the chain of distribution to the end consumer. A good example of that would be goods being sold at retailers today may have been imported several months ago before tariffs were imposed. So we're beginning to see some effects, and we do expect to see more of them over coming months. We do also see price increases in some of the relevant categories like personal computers and audiovisual equipment and things like that that are attributable to tariff increases. In addition, we look at surveys of businesses, and there are many of those, and you do see a range of things, but many companies do expect to put all or some or all of the effect of tariffs through to the next person in the chain, and ultimately to the consumer. Today, the amount of the amount of the tariff effects, the size of the tariff effects, their duration and the time it will take are all highly uncertain. So that is why we think the appropriate thing to do is to hold where we are as we learn more. And we think our policy stance is in a good place where we're well positioned to react to incoming developments.
So in terms of how we should interpret the rate cuts penciled into the SEP, is this reflecting that there's this expectation that underlying inflation will just stay well enough contained that allows the committee to eventually move ahead with those cuts? Or is it about, responding to a deterioration in economic activity, let's say? I mean, how should we make sense of the forecast?
So if you look at the forecast, you will see that people do generally expect inflation to move up and then to come back down. But we can't just assume that. Of course, we don't know that. And, our job is to make sure, one of our jobs is to make sure that a one-time increase in inflation doesn't turn into an inflation problem. And that, again, that will depend on the size of the effects, how long it takes for them to come in, and ultimately on keeping inflation expectations anchored.
Hi, and thanks, Chair Powell. Howard Schneider with Reuters. If you look at the rate path starting in December to today and adjust it over the full time horizon you've got there, you've taken about a quarter point per year out of your projected path, and you end at a higher rate at end 2027 than you would have in the prior forecast. Is that a result of a sense that tariffs will lead to more persistent inflation? Is it a result of reassessments of where your short-term neutral rate is? Why are you on a slower path now?
So I would focus most on the nearer term. As you get out to the later years, it's hard for anybody to know where the economy is going. You didn't see people moving their longer term, estimate of the neutral rate, for example, at this meeting. So and those things are probably slow moving. So I think if you look at what's happening here since March, this is since March, right? You see a little slower growth, just a tiny tick up, a 1/10 tick up in unemployment, and you see inflation moving up 0.3. And by the way, it was a similar move from the December SEP to the March. So that's what you see. You see the effects of tariffs. I think we learned in April, after the March meeting, that substantially higher tariffs were likely. And then since then, the estimates of where the tariffs will be have actually moved back down, although still at an elevated level. So we're adapting in real time. And what you see is an accumulation of individual assessments.
But you say in the statement that risks have diminished on that front, but the July 9th, drop dead date for all the Liberation Day tariffs is still out there and unresolved. You've got now exchange of missiles between two Middle East adversaries with a possible U.S. involvement. How can you justify saying that risks have diminished?
So what we said was that uncertainty uncertainty about the economic outlook has diminished but remains elevated. Many surveys say that. They do. So, and that's actually a line from the Teal book, which you can see in 5 years. Remember to check that.
Maybe the war will be over.
No, but if you think about it, tariff uncertainty really peaked in April, and since then has come down, and that's really what that's just acknowledging. It's diminished, but still elevated. That it's uncertainty. So I think that's an accurate statement.
Thank you. Chris Rugaber at Associated Press. There is an argument out there in favor of cutting rates more immediately. Inflation has continued to cool and is back to roughly 2% despite the tariffs. And I guess I also wanted to ask about cracks in the job market with gross hiring slowing, concentrated in just a few industries. We've seen some housing data, including this morning, that have been pretty weak. Do you see any concerns that the economy is weakening and that is a reason to cut rates going forward?
So we do of course monitor all those things. I think if you look at the overall picture, what you're seeing is 4.2% unemployment and an economy that's growing at a rate hard to know given unusual flows in the first quarter, but it appears to be 1.5–2%, maybe a little better than that. Sentiment has come up off of its very low levels. It's still depressed. So you can point to things. The housing market is a longer run problem and also a short run problem. I don't think it's indicative of basically the situation is we have a longer run shortage of housing, and we also have high rates right now. I think the best thing we can do for the housing market is to restore price stability in a sustainable way and create a strong labor market, and that's the best thing we can do for the housing market. You asked about the job market. Again, look at labor force participation, look at wages, look at job creation. They're all at healthy levels now. I would say you can see perhaps a very, very slow continued cooling, but nothing that's troubling at this time. But we watch it very, very carefully. So overall, again, the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to economic developments, and for now, and we'll be watching the data carefully.
Well, just quickly on, given that there are concerns inflation will rise, but there is the alternate scenario that tariffs would create demand destruction and slow growth sufficiently, and that would perhaps keep a bit of a lid on inflation. Do you see odds of that scenario? What kind of odds do you see of that scenario coming true, and how many months of cool inflation would you need to see before concluding that maybe that lower inflation scenario is taking place?
So this is very much the conversation we had today and yesterday. There are many, many different scenarios, many combinations of scenarios where inflation does or doesn't prove out to be at the levels we think, and where the labor market does or doesn't soften. And I think what you see people doing is looking ahead at a time of very high uncertainty and writing down what they think the most likely case is. No one holds these rate paths with a great deal of conviction, and everyone would agree that they're all going to be data dependent, and that you can make a case for any of the rate paths, I think, that you see in the SEP. And we do this once a quarter. It's a hard thing to do particularly at this time, but it does reflect. If you see somebody writing down a rate path that involves cuts, that's them saying, yes, I think we will get to a place, more likely than not, where cuts will be appropriate. And it could be a joint probability of a number of possible outcomes. Again, remember how much uncertainty we face, though.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I wonder if you could describe for us some of those scenarios. How do you get to a place? I'm noticing that the uncertainty levels in your forecast are very high. How do you get to a place where you have the confidence in the outlook for, say, inflation and or growth or the unemployment rate? How many months does it take, and what do you want to see in the data to get to that level of confidence to actually reduce rates off the restrictive level?
So it's very, very hard to say when that will happen. We know that the time will come. It could come quickly. It could not come quickly. As long as the economy is solid, though, as long as we're seeing the kind of labor market that we have and reasonably decent growth and inflation moving down, we feel like the right thing to do is to be where we are, where our policy stance is, and just learn more. And in particular, we feel like we're going to learn a great deal more over the summer on tariffs. We hadn't expected them to show up much by now, and they haven't. And we will see to the extent to which they do over coming months. And I think that's going to inform our thinking, for one thing. In addition, we'll see how the labor market progresses. So at some point it will become clear. I can't tell you exactly when that will be. And meanwhile, we'll be watching the labor market very carefully for signs of weakness and strength, and tariffs for signs of what's going to happen there. And of course, there are many developments ahead. Even in the near term, developments are expected on tariffs. So I think we don't yet know with any confidence where they will settle out. We have an estimate, and it's I think all estimates are now pretty close together, but it's again highly uncertain.
When you say estimate of the impact of tariffs on the core PCE, is that what it is? And could you share that?
What you start with is what's the effective tariff rate overall, and people are managing to that. But the pass-through of tariffs to consumer price inflation is a whole process that's very uncertain. As you know, there are many parties in that chain. There's the manufacturer, the exporter, the importer, the retailer, and the consumer. And each one of those is going to be trying not to be the one to pay for the tariff. But together, they will all pay for it together, or maybe one party will pay it all. But that process is very hard to predict. And we haven't been through a situation like this. And I think we have to be humble about our ability to forecast it. So that's why we need to see some actual data to make better decisions. We'd like to get some more data. And again, in the meantime, we can do that because the economy remains in solid condition.
Nick Tamarosa of the Wall Street Journal. Chair Powell, I guess I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit more the divergence we see in the dot plot, particularly around the 2025 rate projections. I realize this is, you have one group of officials that are putting down no cuts, another that are putting down more than one. And again, recognizing that could be difficult to summarize, but is it a matter of people having a different outlook or a different reaction function, a different commitment to defending against another inflation mistake? How did that play out over the last 2 days?
So you're right. This is often the case. We have a pretty healthy diversity of views on the committee. We did have strong support for today's decision and broad agreement that our policy stance does leave us in a good place. But I would point to two factors, and you mentioned them. The first is just that parties have a diversity of forecasts. And they do align with where their dots are. So if you have a higher inflation forecast, you're going to be less likely to be writing down, more cuts. But remember, as we see more data, we're going to learn more about where inflation is headed, and that means when it is time to look at resuming our normalization process, the differences you see should be smaller because we'll have seen actual data. Right now, it's just a forecast in a very foggy time. So that's the first part, is forecast. Secondly, people can look at the same data and they can evaluate the risks differently, as you know. And that includes, the risk of higher inflation, the risk that it'll be more persistent, the risk that the labor market will weaken. People are going to have different assessments of that risk. So you put that in there too. So those are the two ways that the two things I think that drive these things. Remember though, as I mentioned earlier, with uncertainty as elevated as it is, no one holds these rate paths with a lot of conviction. So that's really where it is. It's a function of those things. And I think as the data come in, you should see those differences diminish.
If I could follow up, you've said the policy is in a good place and that it's modestly restrictive. Given all the uncertainty you just talked about, tariff levels, uncertainty around the pass-through, is it price increases versus margin compression, some of the softness that Chris talked about in labor and housing, why wouldn't it be better to have rates at a more neutral setting as the economy heads into this period of very high uncertainty?
So if you just look backward at the data, that's what you would say, but that's not. We have to be forward-looking, and the thing that every forecaster, every outside forecaster, and the Fed is saying is that we expect a meaningful amount of inflation to arrive in coming months, and we have to take that into account. So I think a backward-looking look would lead you to a neutral stance, but we can't. We have to look at that, and because the economy is still solid, we can take the time to actually see what's going to happen. There's a range of possibilities on how large the inflation effects and the other effects are going to be. So we'll make smarter and better decisions if we just wait a couple of months or however long it takes to get a sense of really what is going to be the pass-through of inflation and what's going to be the effects on spending and on hiring and all those things.
Michael McKee from Bloomberg Radio and Television. Your friend down at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue continues to lob insults in your direction, and I'm wondering, given now that the Supreme Court has maybe carved out the Fed from some of the legal implications of that, whether this is just noise that the markets and everybody should ignore until your term is up, or whether you worry that it could lead to more pressure on confidence on Wall Street, on consumers, about the outlook for the economy.
Look, from my standpoint, it's not complicated. What everyone on the FOMC wants is a good, solid American economy with strong labor market and price stability. That's what we want. We think our policy is well positioned right now to deliver that and to be able to respond in a timely way as the data lead us around. The economy's been resilient, and part of that is our stance. And again, we think we're in a good place on that to respond to significant economic developments. That's what matters. that is what matters to us. Pretty much that's all that matters to us.
I need to ask, assuming you are not reappointed, would you stay on as governor when your term as chair ends?
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about this.
Andrew.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I guess with workplace raids increasing, picking up significantly, what kind of effect would that have on the labor market in
Sorry,
the short
with
term?
what picking up?
Workplace raids.
So you're asking immigration.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't want to speculate. One way to get at that from an economic standpoint, we of course don't comment on immigration policy. It's not ours to make or comment on. But what you see is an unemployment rate that has been really solid and at a low level, not really increasing. It's been in a good range and well within the range of mainstream estimates of maximum employment. And that means, like, part of that is that labor demand and labor supply are kind of moving down at the same rate. Labor demand is softening. You see that in job creation, but it's still kind of at a healthy level. And labor supply is diminishing because the immigration numbers that we see are much lower than they were. So those two factors, supply and demand, that's what has kept the unemployment rate in a reasonably stable place.
Okay, thanks. The other thing I wanted to follow up on is if you could elaborate on the potential changes to the SCP that you suggested were part of the framework review, I think.
So the framework review really has two tracks, right? The first track is our policy framework that is reflected in the consensus statement. And we've said that we would finish that and announce it by the end of the summer. So we're well along in that process. We've had the meetings that we need to have, and we're now going to be going into, into discussions about, specific changes to language. So that's the framework part of it. The second part of it is our communications tools and practices. Pardon me. And that part comes next. Okay, that's what we're going to do in the meetings this fall. Actually, what we did at this meeting, though, is we sort of prepared the ground for that. We had a meeting where we talked at a high level about a number of ideas. The SCP is part of it. Many other ideas. It's sort of, how do we think our communications can be improved? There are a number of ideas. People offered a really, it was a great conversation, number of ideas, but we're going to look at those with staff briefing and a lot of thought in the fall. And I would say when it comes to changing communications, I would only support things really that only implement things that have very broad support. And also you want to be really careful because I think our communications are pretty well received. They're not broken. So more is not necessarily better, but better is better. So we're going to be looking at ways to do things that will improve the clarity of what we do for the benefit of the public.
Thanks, Chair Powell. Kelly O'Grady, CBS News. You're famously known as the guy that makes decision based on data instead of speculation. You've said today the inflation data is in a good place. We don't know how tariffs are going to impact prices going forward. That's uncertain. But I've got to go back to the last time that you cut rates in December, and there was still the what if of tariffs. So what made you feel comfortable cutting then when inflation was higher than where it is today, and you didn't cut today?
Well, the forecast for inflation in December was 2.5. Core PCE for 2025, the forecast was 2.5%, which is a good inflation forecast. I think what we've learned is that, and this was long before we had any idea of what the actual policies would be, we've learned that the tariffs are going to be substantially larger than forecasters generally thought. And we don't, our forecasts are generally not particularly different from those of other, well-resourced forecasting operations. So what we learned, and particularly in April, was that very substantially larger tariffs were coming, and that would mean higher inflation. That's what happened. And so you saw 2.5% forecast in December, you saw 2.8% in March, and you see 3.1% now. So it's 0.6 higher inflation for 2025, and that's a big part of the change, and that's due to the effects of the tariffs that are, we don't know where they're going to land, but it's pretty apparent they're going to land higher than outside forecasters were really guessing at the end of last year.
My follow-up to that, I think consumers, right, we're looking for relief on rates when it comes to mortgages, car loans, small businesses want to take out more manageable loans. When you look at the cumulative inflation over the past 5 years, prices have risen over 20%. It's been a rough road. So what is the tipping point then for the wait and see approach in terms of how much it's going to help versus when it hurts the American consumer?
Well, I mean, we're trying to restore price. The best thing we can do for the public that we serve is restore price stability. If we can, and we will, restore price stability, meaning 2% inflation on a durable, sustainable basis, that, and also maximum employment. If we restore those things, that's the best thing, and that is our goal. The best thing we can do for the American people, for households and businesses, that is the ultimate thing that we can deliver. And they can make their decisions without having to think about inflation all the time. So in the meantime, we have to keep rates high to get inflation all the way down. They're not very high, let's be honest. I would say policy is modestly or moderately, probably modestly now restrictive. If you look at the economy, it's not performing as though it were performing under very strict monetary policy, very restrictive monetary policy. So I would say probably modestly restrictive. And so what it will take is confidence that inflation is coming down. Now, I would say without tariffs, that confidence would be building, because if you see what's happening with non-housing services and housing services, which are the other two big pieces other than goods, those are coming down really nicely now. So I think we have to learn a little more about tariffs. I don't know what the right way for us to react will be. I think it's hard to know with any confidence how we should react until we see really the size of the effects, and then we can start to make a better judgment. So that's what we're doing, and I think we can take the time to do that because unemployment is 4.2%. Wages are moving up. Real wages are moving up at a healthy clip now. And inflation is 2.3% headline inflation over a 12-month basis. So it's a good economy and a solid economy with decent growth.
Thank you, Chair Powell. So you're saying that uncertainty has come down, the economy is moving at a solid pace, inflation has come down over the past 3 months, and this is all moving in the right direction. So are you indicating here that Americans should expect some sort of economic pain in the second half of the year?
I'm not saying that at all. From our standpoint, what I can say is that the U.S. economy is in solid shape. Inflation has come down. The unemployment rate remains at 4.2%. As I mentioned, real wages are moving up. It's a good job creation is at a healthy level. Unemployment, again, as I said, low. Labor force participation in a good place. So, and what we're waiting for to reduce rates is to understand what will happen with really the tariff inflation. And there's a lot of uncertainty about that. Every forecaster you can name who is a professional forecaster with adequate resources and forecasts for a living is forecasting a pretty significant. Everyone that I know is forecasting a meaningful increase in inflation in coming months from tariffs, because someone has to pay for the tariffs, and it will be someone in that chain that I mentioned between the manufacturer, the exporter, the importer, the retailer, ultimately somebody putting it into a good of some kind, or just the consumer buying it. And all through that chain, people will be trying not to be the ones who pick up the cost, but ultimately the cost of the tariff has to be paid, and some of it will fall on the end consumer. We know that because that's what businesses say, that's what the data say from past. So we know that's coming, and we just want to see a little bit of that before we make judgments prematurely.
And follow up on that. So you spent years though talking about how you're data dependent, and be a little more direct on this. Now you're making decisions looking forward. Doesn't the data you're seeing today indicate there should be a rate cut?
No, I mean, your monetary policy has to be forward-looking. That is elementary. You've got to be looking. I always talk about the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. We say that over and over and over again, right? So it's always forward-looking. If at the very beginning of the pandemic, we cut rates to zero immediately. Nothing had happened. We just knew that it was going to be really bad, right? So we took very aggressive forward-looking, because we knew things were going to be unusually difficult. So, of course, this is something we sort of know is coming. We just don't know the size of it. And again, the economy seems to be in solid shape. So the labor market's not crying out for a rate cut. Businesses, in a bit of shock after April 2, but you see business sentiment, you talk to business people now, there's a very different feeling now that people are working their way through this, and they understand how they're going to go, and it feels much more positive and constructive than it did 3 months ago, let's say. So again, we think that our current stance of monetary policy is in a good place.
Thank you. Amara Mokwe with Bloomberg. Chair Powell, in February, you told Congress that the Fed is, quote, overworked, maybe not overstaffed. Then in a memo to staff in May announcing a deferred resignation program at the Fed, you said you wanted to ensure that the Fed was, quote, right-sized. Those two statements appear to be at odds with one another. Could you explain what changed in the roughly 3 months between those statements that made you decide that staff levels at the Fed should decline?
I don't see them at all as intention. So I was asked, is the Fed overstaffed? And I said no. And I sort of said as a pun, overworked but not overstaffed. People do work extremely hard at the Fed, and I know they work hard at Bloomberg too. So, but we do. We work hard. But I would say this. So we are careful stewards of public resources, and sometimes you need to show that. So there have been several times in our history, modern history, where the Fed has said, you know what, we're going to do a buyout. We're going to show the public, we're going to demonstrate that we are good stewards of public resources. So we thought, and I thought, that this is a time when we can, we grow at about, our headcount has grown at about 1% a year. So over the course of a couple of years, we're doing a careful scrub of the board and all the reserve banks, and we're going to find 10% of employees who can do something else, where we can streamline our operations, and we think we can get there in a couple of years. We think we can do that, and we think this is without taking risk to carrying out our critical missions. So this is something you do very carefully, thoughtfully, and you do it, again, respecting that we have critical missions to carry out. I've had experience, a lot of experience in my prior careers, with headcount reductions and things like that, and this is how you do it professionally. You do it carefully, thoughtfully, with a lot of planning, and you do it over a period of time. And I think the Fed will be fine. I think no one will notice any decline in our ability to carry out our missions, and I think it's just us wanting to demonstrate to the public that we are actually good stewards of their resources. We're effectively wiping out 10 years of headcount growth with this. So, I mean, we wanted to show that, that we're good stewards.
How is progress on reducing headcount going so far? Are you on track to meet the goal?
We're just at the very beginning. As you know, we're doing a buyout program. We're going to hit that goal. I think many organizations find that they can do this. You don't want to do it every year or anything, but you can do it at intervals, and you wind up not interfering with your ability to perform your jobs.
Chair Powell, Claire Jones from the Financial Times. As you're no doubt aware, the Senate Finance Committee has tabled its version of the reconciliation bill this week, and I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the tenor of the debate at the FOMC over the past few days on fiscal policy and the degree to which that influenced people's projections for 2026 and beyond. Thank you.
Yeah, so, we don't sit around and debate or really discuss. We take fiscal policy as fully exogenous, and so we actually, really didn't talk about the bill or the contents of it. It's still evolving. When it gets closer, remember also we have a very, very large economy, and that the effects will be at the margin, I expect that they may already be in, but they will be in by the next meeting. We'll make an estimate, but it's not a major thing. It's nothing that we discuss. It may have been mentioned a couple of times, but as something that's coming in. But I think the outcome is, we don't know the outcome yet there, so hard to be real specific.
Neil. Thanks, Chair Powell. Neil Irwin with Axios. There have been some cutbacks in economic statistics collection in the last few weeks, worries that long-running problems around funding and response rates may be getting worse. How much is this concern on your radar? How much confidence do you have that the gauges you're watching to assess the economy are reliable right now?
Two things. One, the data we get right now, we can do our jobs. I'm not concerned that we can't do our jobs. That's not the point. The point really is that we are starting to see, layoffs and important gatherers of data are saying that they're having to cut back on the size of their surveys. That's going to lead to more volatility in the surveys. I think we should take a step back and, from our standpoint, and I think the standpoint of businesses and governments and everyone, having really good data on the state of the economy at any given time is a huge public good. It helps, it not just doesn't help the Fed, it helps the government, it helps Congress, it helps the executive branch. More importantly, really, it helps businesses. They need to know what's going on in the economy. The United States has been a leader for many, many years in this whole project of measuring and understanding what's happening in our very large and dynamic economy. And I hate to see us cutting back on that, because it is a real benefit to the general public that people in all kinds of jobs have the best possible understanding of what's happening in the economy and hence what's likely to happen. It's very hard to measure what's going on in the U.S. economy. If you read, there was a book called, it's really remarkable how many things you need to understand to estimate U.S. GDP. Very, very difficult, and it's so important that we get it right. I just would say it's not a place to I would want to keep investing in that, for the good of the general public.
Victoria. Hi, Victoria Guida with Politico. So you're conducting this monetary policy strategy framework review, but next year we're supposed to have a new Fed chair, and I'm wondering if that affects at all the way that you're approaching this. How do you ensure that this framework will actually be durable?
The framework document goes back to 2012, and it's the committee's document. It's not like we're going to invent a brand new way to do things. It's been an evolving document, so it shouldn't depend on who the chair is at all. It should depend on what's happening in the economy and what the committee wants to do. So, yeah, it isn't really tied to any particular chair. And we used to renew it every year. Now we do it every 5 years. So, but I don't think I've never heard anyone raise this issue that a new chair might want to come in and go in a completely different direction. I really don't think that's right. But but that's not going to be up to me to decide.
Is that affecting at all who you're consulting with?
Not at all. Not in any way.
Thank you. Chair Powell, Matt Egan from CNN. Relatively low gas prices this year have helped drive down inflation in recent reports, but that trend is starting to reverse given the crisis in the Middle East. How are you thinking about how the Israel-Iran conflict will impact the economy, especially inflation? And what lessons were learned during the 2022 period when another conflict, the Russia-Ukraine war, sent oil and gas prices skyrocketing?
So, of course, we're watching, like everybody else is, what's going on. I really don't have any comment on that. Possible that we'll see higher energy prices. What's tended to happen is when there's turmoil in the Middle East, you may see a spike in energy prices, but tends to come down. Those things don't generally tend to have lasting effects on inflation, although, of course, in the 1970s, they famously did, because you had a series of very, very large shocks. But we haven't seen anything like that now. The U.S. economy is far less dependent on foreign oil than it was back in the 1970s. So, but there.
A quick follow-up. I've just got to ask you about artificial intelligence. Some technology executives have recently been warning that AI could wipe out a large chunk of entry-level jobs and significantly increase the unemployment rate. I'm wondering how concerned you are, if at all, about the threat that AI poses to employment.
So this is the question. The question really is, will AI be more augmenting labor or replacing labor? And I wouldn't, we all see those announcements, including one today. I wouldn't, overread a couple of data points, because, AI should be creating jobs at the same time. It may be replacing, may be doing both. Anyone who's done any work with AI will have been a little bit stunned at how capable it is. And it's just a different thing. So I think this is something that certainly has transformational potential. And probably we're in the very early stages of it. You know, they say what you're seeing now compared to what you'll see in 2 years is going to be very different and even more effective. So I think it's really hard to know. That, you know, of course, there are optimists who feel like it's going to make everybody much more productive. And there are those who think it's going to replace an awful lot of jobs right across the income spectrum, you know, white collar, blue collar, and everything. So I just don't know. We don't have a house view on that, but this is going to be a very important question for some time.
Greg.
Thank you. Greg Rapp from MarketWatch. I was wondering if you could step back a little bit, Chair Powell. You know, there's a spate of articles and a lot of op-eds now in the newspapers saying that the U.S. economy and the global economy is going through this profound change, you know, akin to the end of the Bretton Woods era in the 1970s. And don't you owe the American people, like, some sort of, like, explanation for what we're going through? I mean, I noticed earlier this month when you talked about Bretton Woods a little bit, and you said that Bretton Woods, the Fed staff had to like change how the dollar, movements of the dollar was impacting the economy. Are we going through something like that now? That, you know, are you having to change how you do monetary policy? Is it that fundamental a change underway? Thanks.
It's certainly a time of real change. You know, from a geopolitical standpoint, from a trade standpoint, from an immigration standpoint, you see this not just here but everywhere. So there's quite a lot going on. It doesn't change the way we do monetary policy in the near term. I mean, but and it doesn't change our objectives or what we need to do. And you know, these things are not really our issues. They're really issues for elected governments. All of those issues are really for elected governments. But there's no question it's a time of real change, and very hard to see where that goes. You know, will it be, there have been many things written about how it's going to be a more inflationary time. That's possible. It's not guaranteed. You know, AI could cut in the very other direction. AI could make people much more productive and push in the other direction. I don't know, though. So, but you're right. But honestly, our focus is a much more practical one, and that is how do we keep inflation low and employment high in the near term. That's really what we're about.
Mark.
Hello, Chairman Powell. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. What is the view about the growing amount of slack in the job market, including the softening in payrolls, the forecast of a modest rise in the unemployment rate, and the ability of workers to demand wage hikes or not in this environment where you have inflation surging?
You don't really see unemployment going up. You don't see increased slack, really. I mean, at the margin, remember, you're at 4.2% unemployment. That was, for many years, that was a extremely low level. It happens to have come up off of an even lower level as we came out of the pandemic. We were as low as 3.4%, but 4.2% is probably at the low end of estimates of the longer run, sustainable level of natural rate of unemployment. So I guess I wouldn't agree with that. And also, in terms of wages, you know, real wages after inflation have been moving up sort of more than was consistent with 2% inflation. They're still moving up at a healthy clip, and I think much more consistent with 2% inflation given a reasonable assessment of trend productivity. So it's a pretty good labor market. You know, you're right that the level of job creation has come down, but so has the supply of workers, the change in the supply, the new supply. So you've seen the unemployment rate remain pretty stable at 4.2. It's been as high as 4.3, but you know, those are good numbers. So it's a pretty good labor market. There's a more concerning thing is there are not a lot of layoffs, but there are not a lot of job creation. The number, if you're out of work, it's hard to find a job, but very few people are being laid off at this point. So that's an equilibrium we watch very carefully, because if there were to be significant layoffs and the job finding rate were to remain this low, you would have an increase in unemployment fairly quickly. But that hasn't happened. It really hasn't happened. the U.S. economy has defied all kinds of forecasts for it to weaken, really over the last 3 years. And it's been remarkable to see just again and again when people think it's going to weaken. Now, eventually it will, but we don't see signs of that now.
Go to Jean for the last question.
Hi, Chair Powell. Jean Young with MNI Market News. There's been a lot of talk about cuts. I wanted to ask you, why do you think there are no forecasts for rates to rise or even to stay where they are next year, given that the projection for inflation is to rise to 3%, and there's a lot of there's some skepticism over whether those price hikes will be a one-time event?
So there are a number of people on the committee who wrote down no cuts this year, but some cuts next year. So, look, I think, people are writing down their most likely path, right? They're not saying there's zero possibility of other things. Really, it's think of it as the least unlikely path in a situation like this where uncertainty is very high. I think, again, people write down their rate paths, and they do not have like a really high conviction that this is exactly what's going to happen over the next 2 years. No one feels that way about their rate path. They feel like, what am I going to write down? I mean, what would you write down? It's not easy to do that with confidence. So I would just say it that way. We don't rule things in or out. Certainly a hike is not the base case at all. It's not something people are writing down. But in the meantime, we do the best we can with these forecasts, and I think they're representative of the different forecasts and different reaction functions that people on the committee have. So thank you very much. Thanks.
All right, there we go, Mr. Data up on the screen. Give me 1 second. Hold on really quick. All right, sorry about that. All right, Mr. Data up on the screen. I'll admit, I'm a big data guy myself, but there are some times where you have to admit that data is behind. Here's the problem. When you rule based on data, you have to wait for the data to come in. So the data comes in, you crunch the numbers, there's some more time, and then you make the decision. By that point, that data now is already old. Sometimes that data can be as old as 6 weeks. So you're making a decision on 6-week-old data. And if you keep kind of replaying that, that idea, you really run into some problems here. And what we're seeing more and more with Jerome Powell is exactly that. He's very data-driven, to the point of a fault. And he kept saying, we got to wait and see what the data says. We got to wait and see what the data says. Well, the problem is I think we've all been in situations in our lives where you don't need the data to tell you that something is wrong, right? Like if you wake up and, you've got, a little bit of blood pouring out of your nose and a little bit of blood pouring out of your ears and blood pouring out of your mouth, you don't need to get a test to tell you that something's wrong. You know something is wrong. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's very, 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 very frustrating. I just, look, he's not a flexible person, plain and simple. He's really not. He was slow to react to when inflation started going up. He's been slow to react with inflation going down. I mean, think about it. The European Central Bank has now cut rates 11 times since Powell has done what? None. 11 times. So I get what he's saying, okay? I'm just being real here, okay? I get what he's saying, that you have to use data. Data is part of your decision, but part of your decision too should be your experience, right? And this goes to what we were talking about earlier about being a good leader. Part of you making a good decision is data. Part of it is relying upon your past experience. Part of it is you talking to the people on the street, the ground. Part of it is looking at what's coming ahead. Okay, if you're really worried about tariffs, well, guess what? You could always raise rates later. If you're really worried about tariffs, you could always what? Pause rates after you cut them. He said that housing is a problem. Housing is going to remain a problem. There's like no affordable homes out there. There's no starter homes that are affordable. There's no homes for like expanding families. Housing is a big, big problem. Businesses that want to expand right now, it's expensive for businesses to expand. So we have a huge problem. Robert Melvin, Reverend Funky, says Canada has made cuts too. And we have an XRP ETF as well. That's my point. Other countries, other zones are moving forward. And that's where we're having problems here. The United States is such a strong global economic powerhouse that we are dragging the world down with how slow we are moving. And these rates are really screwing people. When the Fed doesn't change rates, right? Like your credit card rates stay the same. Your car loans, there you go. Your home loan, all that just stays the same. And that really screws with people. Stephen Barrett says, how can you mend a broken home if you can't afford the repayments? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So when he talks about data, he said, well, we have to wait and see what happens here with the tariff implications. Well, then what? Then once the tariff stuff comes in, he's going to say, well, we have to wait and see what happens with this. Well, we have to wait and see what happens with this. And then it's not only are we waiting for data, it's the whole wait and see game over and over and over. Trick says England versus Germany is on right now. A little bit of football action. I know my dad's watching that. I guarantee you my dad's. I bet you if I were to call my dad right now, he wouldn't answer because he's watching football. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. Yeah, this is very frustrating. He seems very, very reluctant, everyone, to do anything in terms of rates. In fact, even the idea of mentioning rate cuts, he didn't even want to do anything about that. Dude, you could always raise them if it's the wrong decision. You've got meetings, check it out. You got another meeting in July, September, October, and December. So if you make a decision and it proves not to be good, you got another meeting 30 or 60 days later where you could change your decision. That's the best part about being flexible. You could always change your decision. The problem is, though, is everyone knows Jerome is such a delay guy that the markets price that kind of crap in. And so the markets get used to Jerome Powell like that with his delay kind of crap. And this is where we're at right now. We're at this point where we've got these leaders out there going, oh, we gotta wait for data. And let's be real here. He brought up the whole concept of AI should create jobs. I'm calling total BS with that, because you know what? What company out there is using AI or technology to create jobs? No, they're using AI to replace people. Here, let's order some chemicals, right? I want to order some sulfuric acid. All right, don't ask, okay? Just leave me alone. I want to order some sulfuric acid. So let's buy some sulfuric acid, okay? So we're gonna go some sulfuric acid sale, okay? We want to buy some. Just be nice, okay? Leave me alone. We want to buy some sulfuric acid, okay? So we're gonna go here. We're gonna go buy some sulfuric acid. We're gonna go on to here. And you know what's gonna happen? There's gonna be a little thing. Oh, look, chat with an agent. You know what this is up here? This is an AI agent that's replacing people's jobs. You get what I'm saying here? That's the whole thing. You want to go buy some more stuff? Let's buy some more stuff. We're going to go with that. Let's buy some stuff. I want to buy some stuff. I want to buy some, just look, be nice, okay? I want to do some sulfuric acid shopping, okay? I want to buy some sulfuric acid. So in order to buy some sulfuric acid, what do they want you to do? Oh, would you like to talk to an agent? No, I don't want to talk to an agent. No, I don't want any analytics cookies. I don't want that on. I want this turned off. Leave me alone. Apply my preferences. You're going to see, would you like to talk to an agent? And they're going to have an AI agent window pop up in the corner. That's my point. AI is not bringing new jobs in. AI is replacing jobs. Customer service jobs went from the United States, England, and Canada and were sent to India. Now those jobs from India are replaced with what? With AI. What about all the AI art stuff? Hold on, let's do this. Let's go hang out. Who wants to go hang out with me in DGen World? You want to go hang out with me in DGen World? Let's fucking do it. All right, let's go to Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor, do you think an artist drew this? No, an artist did not draw that. That was AI. So no, we are not hiring people with AI. I don't know where he comes up with that. AI is not out there to create jobs. AI is out there to replace jobs. What about Grok? Grok is not out there powered by people. Grok is powered by GPUs, CPUs, and all sorts of stuff that's not people powered. So again, Jerome Powell out here gaslighting us, telling us that AI is going to create jobs. No, that is not true. The only jobs that AI creates is super high paying, very high level jobs, not these base bulk jobs that we need right now in the market. So again, we're being lied to. When rates stay higher for longer, who does that benefit? The credit card companies, the banks, loan companies, stuff like that. Again, more and more and more lies. And that's where this frustration comes in. He keeps telling us over and over and over this stuff. And when you call him out on it, you can tell he had problems. He was like, hold on. Let me, and he, like, no, dude, drink some water. I'm going to drink some water real quick. So yeah, it's all crap, man. It's all crap right now. All this AI stuff. Maintenance of AI-powered machinery will create jobs. Okay, let's be real here. The number of jobs that AI takes away is much greater than the number of jobs that AI replaces. What about toll booth workers? How about all those people that used to work at toll booths, but now they don't? They were replaced by iPass, by Peach Pass, by the New Jersey Pass thing. Bitcoin farms. How many people work to maintain Bitcoin farms? There's not many of them. Bitcoin farms is, again, what is it? It's all computerized. How many of you out there work at an AI farm? You don't. So don't believe the crap that AI creates jobs. No, AI is there to remove jobs from the job market. It's just, this is just a frustration. A lot of you out there are saying that H-bar is down really, really big time. What's the deal with that, everyone? H-bar down 14.4. Look at that. Sorry, Pi coin's down big time. Let's bring up that H-bar. People have been bringing that up. I got to bring that up real quick. H-bar down big time. Yeah, it was the last time we saw H-bar down this low. It was like, God, 2+ months ago, something like that. Let me bring up the old candlestick-eronies on it. Yeah, last time we saw H-bar this low, 9th of April, everyone. 9th of April. I mean, it's... We're being sold out. What about the internet? The internet got rid of a lot of jobs. That's a big problem. The internet took a lot of jobs, moved them from main countries like the United States, Canada, England, Australia, moved them to third world countries. There you go. Now those jobs are moved from, we're seeing it. Customer service jobs now in India are now being removed from India and being replaced with AI. Think about it. When you call up your pharmacy now, it's all done with the tele stuff. You don't even talk to people anymore. That's all versions of artificial intelligence. Jeremiah, as Shinji says, banks and other financial institutions are making abnormally huge profits right now. Yes, and they will continue to make big profits as long as rates are high. We still need to buy cars, right? Everyone needs to buy a car every so many years, and you're going to do it, and you're going to pay high rates for it. Even if you have a high credit score, you're going to pay big money for it. That's just the way the cookie crumbles right now. They know the consumers need to keep buying. There are a lot of jobs out there that are being replaced with AI and technology. In my lifetime, and most likely in your time, we have seen 3 technological advancements wipe out big chunks of jobs. Number 1, the computer. Do you remember all the bookkeepers? You remember all the people that had to use to keep stuff on like handwritten paper logs? Yeah, computers wiped out a ton of jobs. Then the internet came out. The internet wiped out tons of jobs. Now you're seeing AI wipe out tons of jobs. So you have all these jobs being wiped out. Then on top of that, not only do you have tons of jobs being wiped out, you have inflation eating up money on top of that. You have a whole bunch of people that left the job force when the Rona happened and never went back in. You have a lot of people living with their parents, a lot of parents that moved back with their kids. One of the things that was very popular was older people, when they got older, they downsized their homes. There is no downsizing in homes anymore because basic homes now are freaking expensive. Starter homes are insanely expensive. What are people supposed to do? They're being squeezed on every end right now. Every end. Yeah, robots. Oh, okay. So when I was getting near the end of my my corporate days, that was what we started seeing. Robots were taking over manufacturing, and I saw it. I saw it myself. One of the biggest last projects that I was doing was I was replacing line workers. Okay, I was replacing line workers with robots, and we were literally like taking these big, like they were like big monstrous cubes, like 10 foot by like 14 foot by like 14 foot cubes. And they were replacing 2 to 3 workers each cube, like this robotic cube. And like I was doing the calculations on it, right? And I was doing it with IT people. I was working with HR people. And it was because we were looking at it, and it sounds really gross, but I'm going to go through this with you because I'm going to show you exactly how corporate works. I was involved with this on a very high level. These robots do not talk back. We did not have to pay them benefits. If the robots broke down, all we had to do was order a part. If the people broke down, you'd have to get new people. You'd have to spend money to train them, right? So there was all this stuff. With the robots, we knew exactly what we could get out per hour. 30 to 60 jobs an hour, depending on the product mix. If people had a bad day, if their boyfriend pissed them off, if they slept like crap, their productivity went down. But the robots were very predictable, so we could balance out our manufacturing lines. Like, that's why we did it. It made our manufacturing process predictable. We didn't have to pay the benefits. We didn't have to worry about training. We didn't have the downtime. And we could literally replace 2 to 3 employees per robot. And we knew that by year 2, all we had to do was make sure that we maintained the robots. And then by year 2, profitable. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. And then, guess what? We didn't have to give robots pay raises every year. We didn't have to worry if another manufacturing plant in town was giving their employees raises and then our employees wanted raises. No, because we had a robot. Robots don't ask for raises. We didn't have to worry about unions. None of that stuff. Software upgrades were easy. We could then tweak the product flow going into these robots. So instead of maybe getting 60 jobs an hour, we could get 65. Then we could see what customers were giving us the best products to squeeze even more about it. It is nuts. That's what I did. That was like the end of like my corporate job, was figuring out stuff like that. How do I replace people with robots? And if you want to know what industry I did it in, see what I'm wearing on my face? Glasses. What do I have in this hand? Glasses. What do I have in this hand? Glasses. That's what I did. The glasses you're wearing on your face, probably made them. I worked for the biggest company in the world. In the world. That's what I did. Yeah. Robots. That's what it was all about. I saw plants close down. I was in charge of taking customer service modules and shutting them down. I was in charge of shutting down manufacturing facilities and turning them into call centers. I was in charge of taking places, turning them into what is known as storefront models. Yeah, that's all it was, because we were shutting stuff up. Robots are blind idiots. I get that, but robots are predictable, and from a corporate sense, it makes sense. Robots don't argue with you, and if they break, you just replace a part. They're easy to budget around, and I'm telling you, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because AI is that version. AI is that version. And we're seeing that right now. AI is replacing a ton of jobs. The artists now are all freaking out because AI is replacing them. In YouTube, you see a lot of AI-generated videos. It's a mess, man. It's a mess. Sanitation workers have been replaced. A huge arm connected to the trunk. Yeah. So that's exactly right. Sanitation, that's right. And then what did they do? They made sure that they got the sanitation bins where the arm could go in, flip it up, and then that was it. All I had to do was connect my laptop. I could work from home, and I could see exactly what machine was doing what. All I had to do was call in, text into someone in maintenance, hey, this machine now is down 10%. Can you look into it? Done. Yeah, it's crazy. Totally crazy. So, I mean, you just have to kind of think of what we're all going through right now. So, in my life, I've seen the internet wipe out jobs. I've seen the computer wipe out jobs. And now I'm watching AI wipe out jobs. So, for me to hear Jerome Powell talk about how AI is going to be bringing in jobs, no, girlfriend. This dude is lying to us. Straight up gaslighting us. Gaslighting us. It's a big problem. Big problem. And for him to say, hey, look, we're waiting for the data. We're waiting for the that's fine. Look at the hat I'm wearing right now. I don't need to watch the rest of this White Sox season to tell you that we need to pretty much like rebuild the entire team. I don't need to see that data play out. I can tell you they suck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to watch the second half of the year to tell you that the White Sox need to add a whole bunch of more stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you can shoot from the hip and be right. Some of the best leaders in the world know how to shoot from the hip as well. This is a very frustrating time, everyone. We're behind on regs. We're watching some of our markets here just get absolutely clobbered. We're watching the bigs out there manipulate the market. And the bigs are playing these dips. I mean, you know, as sure as could be, you know that these players out here are playing XRP in these 10, 15% swings. Bajo says he's only lying to the gullible people, not us, because Klaus keeps us on our toes when it comes to these clowns. Thanks, Klaus. You the man. I appreciate that. I totally appreciate that. This is rough, man. This is a very, very rough time. Very, very rough time. Black Apple says, what can we do? Okay, I'll tell everyone what I do. I have a list of assets. I wish I had my notebooks in the living room. I have a list, okay? I have a list of assets that I have price targets for. And I mean like everything, all right? Like everything. I'm talking about metals. I'm talking about stocks. I'm talking about things that give yield, right? Like passive yield. I'm talking about machinery. I'm talking about equipment. I'm talking about all sorts of stuff. PSA cards, right? Like I buy a lot of PSA baseball stuff in the winter when it's on sale, and then I flip it when the season's hot. Like right now, I'm selling a lot of baseball stuff that I bought in the winter. Why? Because no one does it in the winter. I sell it hot now. Aaron Judge, mini. I'm dumping lots of Aaron Judge PSA 10s in the market now because it's hot. I bought lots of Pokemon a couple years ago. It's hot now. I'm making tons. So anyways, I've got a huge list. A huge list, okay? And what I do is I just wait for things to get into that target. I've been buying a lot of oil stuff as of the last like 6-9 months. So when something's in my target, that's what I spend my money on. I don't chase anything, but I've got a big, and it's like a list of like a whole bunch of different stuff. Vehicles, machines, metals, PSA stuff, like equipment, like everything from like, I mean, like you name it stuff. Generators. Sounds stupid, but guess what? Hurricane season's coming up. Guess who's got a whole bunch of Jennies? This guy. Guess what happens when the power goes out? Guess who sells Jennies? This guy. Chainsaws. Guess what happens when hurricane season happens? And there's no chainsaws. Guess who has them? This guy. Like, you see what I mean? Like, you just have to be ready. So like I do, I literally have a physical list of stuff, and if something pops up on my list that's in my price range, I buy it. And then, when it's time for it to be juicy, hot, spicy, naughty, and relevant, I sell it. I have zero emotional attachment to it. If I can make money on it, I sell it. Plain and simple. And that's how it goes. I don't chase things. Circle. I have my price targets for Circle. I am not chasing Circle. Period. I don't give a shit if Circle goes to $400. I will not chase it. I will not chase crypto. I will not chase gold. I will not do any of that. I have just a list. I have a ton of different assets in a bunch of different markets, physical, paper, etc., that whenever they hit, I buy them. I store them. I put them in places. Some of it's paper, some of it's tradable, some of it's physical goods, some of it's passive income stuff, you know, like where you get yield on things like that. Some of it's active base where I gotta sell it. There you go. But I don't chase things, and I buy stuff. So you gouge during a crisis. No, I don't gouge during a crisis. I buy things when no one wants it. And when people want it or when they're in need of it, I don't gouge. I sell it at fair market. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. I don't gouge, trust me, because I'm not a greedy person. I'm not one of those people that bought the Nintendo Switches and gouged them. I don't do that. But I guarantee you, I bought a ton of PSA baseball slabs in November through January. I bought a ton of them bad boys. And then when baseball season heats up, I sell a ton of them. I don't care about any of them players. I just care about making the money on them. It doesn't matter. You can't get like shoehorned into one thing, because if you only get shoehorned into one asset class, guess what? You just have to hope that that one asset class hits. For me, I have so many different ones that there's always something hitting. For me, there's always something that's hot. Everyone makes fun of me about Pokemon. Dude, do you know how much money I've made on my Pokemon shit right now? A ton. A ass ton on Pokemon. Like an insane amount on it. What does it matter what you make your money from unless you're making money on it? And that's what it's all about. Knowing a bunch of different markets on there. So if one market sucks, maybe another market over there is good. Like, you see what I mean? Like, that's what's... Like, equipment. Like, I live in a very rural area, right? A very, very rural area. So, if during certain times of the year, People don't need equipment anymore. Like once the harvest is over, you don't need equipment. Guess what? These people sell that equipment because they don't need it anymore. They need the cash for other things. I will gladly buy it. And then when the harvest season comes back and they need that equipment, I have it. Up north was easy. Up north was snow removal equipment. Up north, you could buy snow throwers, like the nice metal ones. You could buy them all summer long for dirt cheap. And then once that first snow hits, boom, you could sell them just like that. Just like that. Down here in the south, you know what you do? You buy dehumidifiers all winter long. And then when the summer and the humidity comes, boom, you could sell them just like that and make tons of frickin' money. Window AC units. Who wants a window AC unit in the winter? No one does. So guess what you can do? You could buy a ton of them for like 50% off. And then when the summer heat comes and then people's houses get warm and you're like, oh, you mean the store is sold out of AC window units, but Big Daddy has some? Done. Crypto market's red? Who gives a shit? I've got other stuff I can make money. And that's the point. You gotta be flexible. You have to be flexible, man. Like, yeah, okay. New England Lyle says, I bet you've made more on Pokemon the past couple months than you have on XRP. Exactly. That's exactly. So who's laughing? Do you think my bank account cares where the money comes from? No. Like the zeros in the bank account don't care where they come from. They just know that those zeros get bigger and bigger and bigger. Is there pride and is there ego where your money comes from? I hope not. I don't care if you're a farmer. I don't care if you're a construction worker. I don't care if you're a day trader. I don't care if you're a corporate big shot. As long as you're making money, as long as you're treating the people around you good for you. Good for you. That's what this is about. Being happy, taking care of the people around you. That's what it's all about right now. So yeah, does the crypto market suck right now? Yeah. Yeah, of course it does. What about all my silver stackers in the house? Right? What about my silver stackers in the house? For how many years, silver stackers, we've been buying silver, haven't we? We have been buying silver. Oh, wait a minute. I just had it. Hold on. Yeah, Trick is right, the green stuff. Hold on, I just had it. I literally just had it. Where did I put it? I was just screwing around like just a little bit ago. I just had a bag of stuff. Oh, duh. It's freaking right in front of me. Hold on, silver stackers and precious metal stackers. I got a whole bag of goodies right here. Yeah, stacking. Stack-a-roni. Guess what? We've been stacking silver for how long? We've been stacking silver metals for a long freaking time, right? Now what? Now, silver fans, it's our turn. That's the point. Krishna dropping support on the channel. Everyone give Krishna a big thank you. He says, Masterclass of Economics given my class. No, the Masterclass is when I start going like deep into the real manipulation of stuff. So what's the whole thing? Are you going to get mad at people for buying silver and now upset at them because they're selling it now that it's pumping? Hell no. I bought gold for years and years and years. I'm not buying gold right now. It's out of my price target. I've talked to Trick for quite some time. I've talked to Trick about this for over a year, what we were going to do with gold. And every time we talked about it, I said, no, I'm not selling yet because maybe it's going to go up more. I'm not buying any more gold. It's out of my price target right now. I don't chase stuff. I'm very disciplined. Why? Because I have so much stuff. Crypto Donut said, Klaus showed his class when the storm hit, helping his neighbors all week before helping himself. Yeah, I was delivering ice to my neighbors. I spent my own time. I spent my own money. I had chainsaws. I was cutting trees down for my neighbors. That's all I did. When I was not doing videos, I couldn't because I didn't have power. I was cutting trees for my neighbors. I cut trees to get out of my neighbor. Everything for the community. Not greedy. I didn't even charge anyone. Like, that's the whole thing. People just got to be open. So for everyone that's like, oh, I just stack one thing. That's cool. But then all you have is one play, man. All you have is one play. What are you going to do with one play? Car parts. I bought a ton of high-performance car parts. I mean, an insane amount of high-performance car parts. You know how much money I made on that? A ton. When the Rona happened and we weren't able to import car parts, sold. Laughing to the bank every freaking day. You have to just know what to capitalize on. So be real. Be ready. That's how it goes. All right, everyone. We are at 3:54. We're going to end the stream at 4 p.m. Get your last questions, comments in now. If you got questions, comments, do it. We're going to end at 4 p.m. Again, Germany is beating England 2-0. Just throwing it out there. Let's see. Yeah, seriously, thanks for the gifting of the members. I thought that was really cool. We had Krishna gifting a whole bunch of members earlier. I thought that was awesome. Huge shout out to everyone hitting that like button. No shout out to Jerome Powell. He was a bit stingy today, but we knew that was going to happen. He was gaslighting us the whole time. Circle is absolutely on fuego, everyone. $198. Insane, man. Insane. Krishna said, Klaus, as you've stopped buying gold, would you short gold? No, I will not short gold. The reason I won't short gold, you still have too much volatility in the world right now. I'm neutral on gold. I'm not going to sell it yet, though, either. I'm not buying now. I'm in hold right now for gold. I'm neutral hold for gold because, look, if you still have Middle East flare-ups, I'm in big buy for oil right now. I am big buy for oil. Oil is seeing a lot of my money right now. I'm going big into oil. Oil and utilities, by the way. Oil and utilities are seeing a lot of my money. Here's another one for you, right? What things are kind of going out of style right now? Certain sports seasons are ending, right? So when sports seasons end, people want to get rid of stuff, right? But when they fire back up, they're going to be hot, aren't they? Alan McMaster hangs out, says, thanks for the stream, Klaus. Enjoyed it. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Yeah, I'll do a summary video regarding Jerome Powell and the Fed and what's going on with the markets right now. I'll make sure I have everyone kind of up to date on what's going on with that. The Rev says, enjoy the day, and thank you to everyone in the chat. Yeah, dude, chat's freaking awesome. Now you all know why in the videos I say chat is awesome. Because the chat, like, when I'm, like, watching, like, Jerome Powell, do his thing, I'm actually watching the chat and listening to Jerome Powell. So if you wonder, like, when I'm doing the videos, why I'm looking this way, is I have chat here, I have Jerome Powell here, and I have my other monitor over here. That's why I'm always watching chat over on this monitor right here. Krishna says, isn't oil price going up because of the turmoil and eventually go down when everything stabilizes? Yes, but the problem is, though, is what are we learning? We're learning that EV isn't what it all was cracked to be. And that EV sucks. And that the EV thing, we don't have the batteries yet. And that EVs make no sense for a global economy because we don't have the infrastructure. And that people still need oil. And that there will still be conflicts. And that every so often the Middle East heats up, so that means oil prices go up. So oil is still in my buy zone, so I buy on the oil. Black Apple says, great chat, enjoyed, learned, and laughed some. Thanks, Klaus. Stay strong. I appreciate that. I would say go White Sox, but I know they're going to lose. I know Los Cardinals are going to beat us. Douglas says, go Cubs, go. Go Cubs, go. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are gonna win today. Do you know how painful that was for me to say as a Sox fan? But I did it. I sang the jingle for you. What do I get for that? What do I get as a Sox fan that sang the Cubs jingle? Oh, Max gut und danke, Klaus. Yes, bitte, danke schön, mein Freunde. Yes, love it. Purple sent one Crypto with Klaus membership. Awesome, thank you. I appreciate you sending it forward. That's awesome. Very awesome. Basic things out there, just to give it a quick wrap up. Jerome Powell said, yo, rates are going to stay high for a while. Expectations are still 2 cuts this year, but We're teetering on it being one cut. That's not good. The other thing right now is you are seeing some definite face melting price action on the screen. Not the good face melting either, by the way. Not going to be mean here. Crypto market's going to be a little rough until the Middle East settles out. We're going to have problems with inflation short term if everything keeps going the way it's going. Buy targets, yeah, you got to be careful there. Just be careful with what you're getting into. Have some dry powder ready just in case. Glenn Saccona says, I'll bet you any money Daddy Jerome Powell paused. He did pause. We knew it was happening. Other than that, I don't know what else to say. Jerome Powell paused. The White Sox are probably going to lose. Ugh, it's a red screen day. You know the music? I'm going to play my outro, don't you, ladies and gents? So let's do that. Let's play some music. Hang out. I'll catch you cool cats later.
You're chilling when the rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite.